Unknown Number. Kendra Licari, Part 2. The case of Kendra Licari, a Michigan mother who orchestrated a prolonged campaign of cyberbullying against her own teenage daughter, Lauren Licari, stands as a disturbing example of familial abuse in the digital age. Over a period spanning more than a year, from late 2021 into 2022, Kendra sent thousands of anonymous, harassing messages to Lauren targeting her insecurities about her appearance, relationships, and self-worth. These messages escalated to explicit threats, including encouragements to commit suicide, all while Kendra positioned herself as a supportive parent aiding in the investigation. This duality, perpetrator and protector, highlights a profound psychological complexity that demands analysis. Kendra's actions were eventually uncovered through law enforcement efforts, leading to her arrest in December 2022 and a guilty plea to 2 counts of stalking a minor in April 2023. She was sentenced to between 19 months and 5 years in prison, with ongoing debates about her motivations. To understand Kendra Licari's behaviour, it is essential to contextualise her within her family and personal history. Kendra, born in the early 1980s, worked as a girls' basketball coach at Beale City High School in Michigan and held administrative positions at local universities, including Central Michigan University and later Ferris State University. Her marriage to Sean Licari produced Lauren, who was 14 when the bullying began. The family appeared outwardly functional. Kendra was involved in Lauren's school life, coaching her in basketball and fostering close ties with Lauren's boyfriend, Owen McKinney, and his family. They even formed a pandemic bubble during COVID-19 lockdowns in 2020, sharing meals and activities. This, however, was clearly a facade, because beneath it lay certain behaviours and certain stressors. In 2019, Kendra was fired from her job at Central Michigan University for reasons not publicly detailed, which led to financial strain. Might this have resulted in a reduction of emotional empathy for her daughter, causing her to behave as she did? She misrepresented her new salary at Ferris State, contributing to the family's foreclosure and eviction threats. Is this lying for the purposes of needing some form of control, to avoid accountability? Or was it the desperate act of a desperate person as a consequence of financial pressure? Kendra later cited depression, anxiety, and suppressed childhood trauma, including sexual abuse, as factors in her mental state during sentencing. Is this just the provision of excuses by an individual that seeks control and fuel? Or are they legitimate explanations for why she behaves as she did? Was it the case that she was actually a woman under immense pressure, seeking outlets in a life marked by instability? Lauren, described as a shy, high-achieving student and athlete, began dating Owen in middle school, a relationship that coincided with the onset of the harassment. Was this simple coincidence, or was it in actual fact the catalyst? Was it the case that Kendra Licari was jealous of her daughter, fearing losing her to the new boyfriend, and that her subconscious need for control was being eroded by her spending more time in relation to this young man, in respect of talking to him, thinking about him, messaging him? Was it a reminder of something else? Was it, as Kendra had suggested, that the presence of a male in the life of her daughter resurrected traumas and she sought to protect her, and did so in a clumsy and unpleasant and horrific way? The bullying started subtly in fall 2019 with messages about social exclusions, such as not being invited to a Halloween party, but by 2021 had escalated into daily barrages. Kendra's role as a mother coach placed her in a position of authority, allowing her intimate knowledge of her daughter's life, details she weaponized in the messages. Does this support an absence of emotional empathy? This background certainly reveals a pattern of enmeshment, where Kendra's identity was deeply tied to that of her daughter's. Is this because she saw her daughter as an extension of herself? Might it be a form of codependency, where the parent's unmet needs manifest in controlling behaviours over the daughter? Might it be that Kendra feared losing relevance as Lauren grew more independently? Or was that fear of losing relevance actually a manifestation of a subconscious need for control? Kendra's cyberbullying was methodical and insidious, leveraging technology to maintain anonymity while inflicting maximum emotional harm. This might support an absence of emotional empathy. She used burner phone apps to generate fake numbers, VPNs to mask IP addresses, and even software to simulate local area codes, making it appear as if the messages came from peers at school. This was no one-off accidental act. This was a sustained campaign. Over the course of more than a year, she sent hundreds of thousands of messages, sometimes dozens per day, to Lauren and Owen. Was this a form of malign hoovering, designed to assert control over the non-intimate secondary sources that Lauren and Owen represented, and to draw fuel by way of response? The content was tailored to exploit Lauren's vulnerabilities. Again, is this demonstrative of an absence of emotional empathy, the exploitation of a victim's vulnerabilities? Insults about her anorexic appearance, "You are the ugliest person I've ever seen," mockery of her basketball performance, and fabrications about Owen's infidelity. "Owen is breaking up with you. He no longer likes you." The messages also included explicit sexual content. Owen wants sex, BJs, and making out, and direct suicide encouragements. "Kill yourself, bitch. His life would be better if you were dead." A hallmark of Kendra's behaviour was her duplicity. As the harassment intensified, Lauren confided in her mother, who feigned concern, false compassion, and actively participated in the investigation. Is this a case of fire starter and firefighter, creating the problem and thriving on the attention that comes with it? Kendra joined meetings with school officials, the sheriff's office, and Owen's mother, Jill McKenney, offering to help trace the bully. She even implicated other students, such as a girl named Chloe Wilson, by creating fake Snapchat accounts in their names. This also is demonstrative of an absence of emotional empathy by triangulating these individuals. This helper role allowed Kendra to monitor the impact of her actions firsthand. Was she deriving fuel from the dependence of Lauren on her mother to help and allowing her to maintain control over her? This is a form of relational abuse where harm is inflicted indirectly to avoid detection. It demonstrates a high level of detachment of emotional type and manipulative behaviour, often seen in personality disorders. The investigation involving local police, the Michigan Computer Crimes Task Force, and the FBI uncovered Kendra's involvement through IP tracing in April 2022. When confronted in August 2022, she admitted to the acts. Is that admission genuine? But she cited stress and financial woes, but also denied sending the initial messages, which was a claim contradicted by the evidence. One of the foremost considerations is factitious disorder imposed on another, FDIA, or, as it used to be known, Munchausen syndrome by proxy, where a caregiver fabricates or induces illness in a dependent to gain attention or sympathy. In Kendra's case, experts like Isabella County Prosecutor David Barberi and former Beale City Superintendent described it as cyber Munchausen's, a digital variant where the harm is emotional rather than physical. By bullying Lauren online, Kendra created a crisis that positioned her as the comforter, ensuring her daughter's emotional reliance. Chilman noted she wanted her daughter to need her in such a way that she was willing to hurt her. This mirrors classic Munchausen syndrome by proxy cases like that of D.D. Blanchard, where mothers harm children to fulfill unmet needs for validation. Attachment theory also applies. Kendra's reported childhood trauma, including sexual abuse, may have led to insecure attachment styles, perhaps anxious, preoccupied, where she feared abandonment as Lauren matured. Cyberbullying could present a maladaptive strategy to keep Lauren close, sabotaging her independence and relationships. There's the possibility, of course, of narcissistic personality disorder, whereby Kendra's coaching role and involvement in Lauren's life suggest a need for reflected glory, which was threatened by Lauren's growing autonomy, an absence of emotional empathy, a preoccupation with the necessity of asserting control over people, acting in an entitled way, being fire starter and firefighter. Might it simply be the case that it was stress and trauma, job loss, financial instability, depression, which exacerbated either latent pathologies or of themselves reduced her present emotional empathy, with the consequence that she fed off the drama, providing a distraction or a sense of control amid the chaos, in the way that some individuals that have high levels of responsibility seek particular harmful distractions as a means of somehow asserting control in the chaos. Might this be the instance of her also, that she was facing so much chaos in her life that she sought control over her daughter as a means of distracting from it? The deliberate escalation of messages to include suicide prompts suggests not mere venting, but actually a real effort to heighten Lauren's distress, thereby increasing Kendra's role as a saviour. This is supported by her active participation in the investigation, which prolonged the deception and amplified her hero status among family and authorities. Might that hero status enabled her to assert control over more people and draw fuel from a greater number of individuals? Family dynamics reinforce this. Kendra's financial lies and job instability indicate a pattern of deception for self-preservation. Her trauma history might have contributed to emotional dysregulation, where cyberbullying served as a maladaptive coping mechanism. The digital medium, unlike overt abuse, allowed detachment. Kendra therefore could harm without witnessing immediate physical reactions, reducing guilt if she experienced it. It might also be questionable as to the extent that it would provide her with fuel, for she was not necessarily seeing the immediate reaction. However, she would be receiving fuel, if she is a narcissist, as a consequence of the messages that were sent back when Lauren originally sought to fight it, and, of course, with the reactions from her daughter confiding in her as a consequence of the messages and the responses of a host of other people. Indeed, it would increase her level of exposure to other people and their responses beyond that which she would ordinarily achieve on a day-to-day basis. The evidence points to a potential digital manifestation of Munchausen syndrome by proxy, that there's emotional enmeshment amid personal trauma and stress. By harming Lauren emotionally, Kendra ensured her dependence, satisfying unmet needs for validation and relevance. Her history of depression, anxiety, and childhood abuse likely exacerbated these impulses, while financial pressures provided a backdrop of instability. There was no formal diagnosis of Munchausen syndrome by proxy, or FDIA, but it was certainly the case that those involved in this matter believed that that was what was taking place. There's certainly evidence that supports this, the manufacturing of a crisis to then step in as protector and receive attention. But might it be something further than Munchausen syndrome by proxy, or FDIA? And also, is it the case that many cases of Munchausen syndrome by proxy are actually narcissistic personality disorder masquerading as something else? I'm going to be considering that possibility and the further evidence in relation to the possibility that she is a narcissist in part 3. Join me there.